My name is Mark Sutarski, and I'm from Brown's Mills, right down the road from here. My dad always had a vegetable garden plus gardening around the house, and I inherited those traits and was involved in gardening around my house, and eventually got more involved with native plants and learning native plants to grow around the house. And then you have to learn native plants, know which ones are native to your area. So one thing led to another, and then I slowly became more interested in more plants and pine barren plants, and reading Howard Boyd's book about native plants in the pine barrens, and that's how it all evolved. I've been coming to Whitesbog since the late 70s. As a young adult, playing around in the reservoirs, ice skating, and then eventually one day I saw the women. There was a bunch of women out there at the garden around Sunnygib working in the gardens, and I asked them if they needed help, and they needed help with some of the heavier stuff, cutting trees down and some of the bigger stuff. So that's how I got involved with the woman named Ellen Terry and Janet Robbins. Janet Robbins is no longer with us, but Ellen Terry, as far as I know, is still alive, and she lives out in Monmouth County somewhere. And I've been involved with the garden, give or take 20 years ago, and I've been the landscape chairperson for well over 10 years, 15 years, give or take. That beautiful shrub behind this is called franklinia alatamaha. It was named after Benjamin Franklin, and also the river that it was found on was the Alatamaha River in Georgia. It was found by a fellow by the name of John Bartram. If anybody knows anything about early American history, they would know that John Bartram lived in Philadelphia, and he was the king's botanist in the New World. So he was sending plant material to England because these were all new plants. And some of these plants had economical values, or they didn't know what the economical value, whether they were for medicine, for food, for fibers. So a lot of this stuff was all new to them, and they were sending stuff back to England for they can figure out what was good, what was not good, or for horticultural stuff. And this was a beautiful shrub that they found in the wild. They brought it back to Philadelphia, and that was like mid 1700s, late 1700s, and by the early 1800s, that plant went extinct. They can no longer find it in the wild. So all the plants that we have in cultivation today came from John Bartram's garden in Philadelphia along the Schuylkill River. So these were planted here, we assume, by Elizabeth White during her days, and she was propagating them. So we have a few of them. This is a very large specimen. This is a beautiful plant right here. We have one by the general store, and we have two plants at Sunnygib, and we just planted two more at Sunnygib. But we had an amazing discovery a couple weeks ago, and we're right behind the camera is where we found them. So a couple of weeks ago, while inspecting this little trail that we have here, we came across this plant right here. This is another franklinia. We did not know these were here. So we come around, cleaned it up a little bit, and we found 13 of these plants growing in the wild. We don't know if they were leftover cultivars from Elizabeth's time that she had growing here, or if they self-sowed. We just don't know. We've got to do some investigation to find that out. But we found 13 of these beautiful plants right here. And there's a couple over here, a few more over here, and some back in the woods there. She was born in what, 1871? So she was involved with the cranberry operation. So when did she have time to do that? Probably after she built Sunnygib, which was built in 1923. She built Sunnygib. Then she started doing her garden around the house at Sunnygib. So I would assume it was sometime after the house was established and her garden was established, and then she started propagating some pine barrens plants. She had the franklinia growing here, so she was propagating franklinias plus other plants that are pine barren plants. So what time period was that? I'm assuming after 1923 to she passed in 1954. So in that time period there, and she also had what was called Holly Haven along Route 70 in Upton. There was a train station there, and she brought some property there, and she was propagating holly trees there. And she may have planted some of these franklinias there. We don't know. So some of our information, we don't know all the information. We're still working on that. Just like we're trying to figure out how these got here.